Online security is a growing problem. Every time you connect to an unencrypted network, in cafes, hotels, or airports, your online data is not secure. Any hacker in the same network can gain access and steal your online data. That's why you need ExpressVPN, an app that protects you and all your online information. They send 100% of your online activity through encrypted servers. It would take a hacker over 1 billion years to get past their security. That means no one can hijack your Wi-Fi connection and access your online data. It works on any device like laptops, phones, and TVs, and it's easy to use. With just one subscription, you can use ExpressVPN on up to 8 devices at the same time. That's enough to protect your entire family. Start taking your online security seriously. Use my special link to get 4 extra months of ExpressVPN for free at expressvpn.com/Kim. That's expressvpn.com/Kim.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinic. With 27 providers and 3 locations, someone can see you today.
It's Talkback, Central Louisiana's longest-running talk show. Whether it's the guests or the callers, Talkback is where Central Louisiana begins its conversation. Well, happy Tuesday. Terrific Tuesday with Trish. How are you, Trish?
Very good this morning, Nathan. I don't know, I'm getting used to, as we are increasing all of our devices here, and it's so great because
Right.
everything's getting better and better and better tech, but it's a huge screen sitting in front of me now today.
A monstrous great screen in front of you.
Instead of that laptop screen, I'm not used to seeing myself quite this big at this time of the morning.
I sat there yesterday, so I know exactly what you're talking about. But glad to have you along. Nathan, Martin, Trish, Lola in with you on this Tuesday morning for Talkback. And we got a great show ahead of you at the 8 o'clock hour. We're going to be welcoming Dr. Carl Carpenter, who has retired after 45 years in education. Hard to believe. He doesn't look old enough to have 45 years
Right.
in education. I mean, he's white-headed, but he's not wrinkled.
Although, you know what, Nathan? Like, this is, what, his second day to sleep in, and you're making him come into the show
I know.
already?
I saw him yesterday. We're going to talk a little bit about the North Rapids Business and Industry Alliance. I saw him at the meeting yesterday, and that was his first day. He said, first school day in 45 years, he did not have his alarm turned on.
Wow.
He still woke up early, of course, but he didn't have his alarm turned on. So he said, he made a joke today. He said, yeah, I'll set my alarm for you for tomorrow.
Exactly.
Normally we would have Matt Ritchie in today, but Matt is going to come in on Thursday this week, so we can schedule changes. I freed up today, and I told the doc, we wanted him to come on. I talked to him a while back, and said we'd love to have him come in and kind of do a retrospective of his career. And so we were looking down the road, but when today opened up, and I happened to see him, we made the connection. And here's what I want to tease folks with. I would love for him to get some phone calls from former students, former members of his band when he was over at Tioga High School.
Right.
I am a former student of his, believe it or not.
I know, that's what's got to be so amazing when you've had a career that has stretched as long as that, and everything that you've seen and the students that you've seen come through. It's just going to be fun to listen to that retrospective on all of that. So, but yeah, I'd love to get phone calls from his previous students.
Would love to have that, absolutely, during the 8 o'clock hour. So that will be Dr. Carl Carpenter. We may even tell you his real first name, because it's not Carl.
It's not, huh?
No, it's. We'll leave that for then. 8 o'clock, Dr. Carl Carpenter just graduated. He just graduated. I think his retirement became official about 9 o'clock Friday night when he gave the 299 diploma that night.
Wow.
And I think he said almost 5,000 diplomas over the course of his career. So we'll talk with him more about that at 8 o'clock. But until then, it's an open line. The BOM talk line, 301-844-8255. I'm looking around for the number, but it's not written anywhere in front of me. It used to be.
It used to be sitting right there.
Right.
It's like a cheat
I
sheet
know it.
always. I mean, it's not like you don't know it in your head, but again, you always look at the cheat
I
sheet.
had that little pause at a 318. Yeah, that's very good. 318.
Yep, that is.
And we do have to call it now. We have to dial it. It's requested from now till September. Come September, it's going to be mandatory. And we've already talked about that. We have all of our numbers.
Just program it in your phone.
Even at my office phones, I had done that way back when. So
Yeah.
once we went to a VoIP system, and VoIP like the full 10 digits. So, well, let's talk a little bit about a gift that I brought to you this morning.
I know.
I'm not going to give. He doesn't want to take acknowledgement or recognition by his name.
I know, but I was very excited to see you walking in with this nice large gift bag this morning.
I came bearing gifts. In fact, when he came to see me yesterday, I said, beware, was it Greeks bearing gifts? Is that the phrase about, before he said, I'm not Greek, we're all good. But a very faithful listener of the show and a good friend brought by yesterday some fresh homemade sourdough bread that his wife baked yesterday.
And he doesn't realize how big a fan I am of sourdough bread. I mean, that is my go-to. I don't eat a whole lot of bread, but I love sourdough bread.
So I'm going to pull my phone out here and show you yesterday afternoon when I got to the house, the first thing I did was butter me up some bread yesterday, and he also...
And if you're watching us live, you can see he held it up to the screen.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to have to go home later today and do that.
It's a muscadine jelly.
I'm so excited.
I've never had muscadine jelly. I've had menthol jelly.
Yeah.
I've never had muscadine jelly. So
yeah,
very good. And so that was yesterday's afternoon snack, and this was this morning's breakfast.
fabulous.
So I'm working through it. And then also on top of that, I had a ham and cheese sandwich for supper made with the sourdough bread. So I've had 5 pieces of bread.
You're going to need a second loaf pretty soon.
I'll be through that thing in a heartbeat.
But yes, thank you. I love that. I'm so excited to take that home with me today.
We have some of the best listeners.
We really do.
And sometimes we'll stop by and catch us on the way out the door and just say, and it's not about the gifts, it's about the friendships, it's about the relationships.
And knowing there's somebody out there actually listening to us, we sit here, we're just talking to each other. I mean, who knows if there's anybody on the other end of this mic?
We assume you're listening.
We have a couple callers here and there, right? But it is great, and it is neat when you come across somebody that you don't realize they listen.
Yeah.
And they talk about something that you talked about the other day, and so
that catches me a lot. I'm always surprised when people say, "Man, we listen to you all the time," and you're like, "Oh, really?
I know."
Didn't even wouldn't
and
put
even
you as a listener.
people I know that they're taking their kids to school in the morning. Of course, they're not now because I think most of the schools out by now.
There's finals. Sure. My son has to be in school today for a final.
Okay.
My daughter.
And so they'll say, "Hey, look, we love listening to you on the way to school. The kids listen." So hey, shout out to any of those kids out there that are still having to go to school this morning. Summer's almost here.
Almost here.
I know. I left. I think it was yesterday morning. Yeah, Caroline Dorman had, I think, every slide and bouncy blow up imaginable out there for their field day everywhere, and kids everywhere. Yeah, if you wanted to rent one yesterday, sorry, they were all in Woodworth at Caroline Dorman, I think.
That is great.
And then also shout out, last night I was running through town at the time that the Ash graduation was going on at the Coliseum. I don't remember how many graduates they said they had last night, but congratulations to all of those Ash graduates. I think that's the last graduation ceremony of all of them out there now.
I would think so, because we were talking yesterday at the North Rapids Business and Industry Alliance meeting I had Dr. Carl Carpenter, Jeff Powell, someone else from education. There were a couple of school board members there, and and Carl Carpenter, Jeff Powell, and Steve Barry, school board member. We were chatting about the different graduations, and there was one, I think it was Plainview High School. They had like 20-something graduates, which was kind of a large class for them, 29, which is, I guess a lot of times it may be in the high teens. And it's just the pomp and circumstance, even if it's just 30.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Well, was it yesterday in our show prep notes, or I don't know if it was on one of the news things that I read every morning. It talked about down in Cameron Parish. It was one of the schools down there that had one graduate this year. Yeah, I found that so unbelievable. I mean, it made national news because of the number of people that had left after the hurricanes down there.
Right.
And the number of students that were actually in this graduating class, and they had one student graduating.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow.
Well, I have a close connection to Grace Christian School, and they had their graduation last night at Calvary Baptist Church.
Oh, nice.
They had, around 30 students.
Yeah.
Which is pretty great for that school.
Yeah.
They do a lot of great stuff there, and I wasn't able to go last night, but have enjoyed any of the graduations you get to go to. It's almost like the smaller the number of graduates they are, the more attention they give to each one.
Well, yeah, because I know from my kids that all graduated from Ash, you have a lot of kids. And so that's a lot of names. Yeah, you get across that stage. And then, they always say, please hold your applause.
Right.
And it never happens.
For a little while it might, but then by the time you get to the C's,
yeah,
they already start yelling.
It's done. And so then when you're an L last name, you're in the middle of it all. You're just hoping maybe you can hear it.
Because you're trying to record it, right? You
Right.
capture that moment and hear the name, and your kid's off stage when there's somebody else on stage when they
When
say
they
their
say the
name.
name, yeah.
And then you're tracked with the yeah.
And then you record it, and then do you ever go back and watch it? I don't know. Maybe 25 years later they'll want to.
I'm sure much later it'll be nice.
You know, see, I don't know if my high school graduation is recorded somewhere.
Hey, Mom.
I don't know. Mom, Dad, I don't, I mean, that was back in the big video camera days. I don't know. Is there a recording of my high school graduation?
I was watching a thing the other day, a reel that came across where they had the guest of young Sheldon on one of the.
I love that show.
And they were showing them pictures of things and asking them what they were.
Yeah.
And it was like a floppy disk and a Walkman and a videotape, VHS tape.
Mm-hmm.
And the girl thought when they showed the VHS tape, she thought it was a Walkman. That's a Walkman.
It's bigger than a Walkman is what that was. But I do remember my high school graduation. Up in Ohio, we graduated on the football field.
Yeah.
I remember sitting in the front row with my sunglasses on and everything,
Did you decorate the top of your hat?
No, that wasn't a thing back then.
Yeah, it wasn't either.
That was never a thing. Because that was, and you really didn't keep it. I don't know.
We got to keep the tassel. We had
Yeah,
to
you
turn
got to
in
keep
the
the tassel, and I thought you turned everything else back
Maybe
then.
college where that became a thing.
Yeah, but I didn't even my college graduation. I don't remember anybody doing
What year
that.
did you graduate high school?
High school was 91.
Did you hear that Gen Zers are now calling things that happened in the 1990s the late 1900s? I just made you feel so old.
Oh my
Yeah,
goodness.
you graduated back in
Which
the
it really was.
late
I
1900s.
graduated in the 90s and the late 1900s, which is true. Oh my gosh. I know.
I mean, we're quarter way through the new century, so I guess we got to start looking at it that way. But
That's crazy.
it really
That is so crazy.
Yeah, I can remember, growing up, I knew people who had been born in the 1800s.
Yeah.
I mean, they were old, obviously, but they were, conversational and one day people are going to look at us and go, yeah, we knew people who were born
way back in the 1900s. Yeah, you're right.
All right, it's the bottom of the hour. Time for us to take a little break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the North Rapids Business and Industry Alliance. Don't forget, Dr. Carl Carpenter coming up after 8 o'clock. We want your phone calls, your memories, the good ones, please. All right, after this.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics with 27 providers and 3 locations. Someone can see you today. Stick around. More of Talkback is on the way.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. The Justice Department has opened an investigation into a recent breach at the leading cryptocurrency exchange, Coinbase Global. That's according to a person familiar with the situation, saying that investigators, including those in the department's criminal division in Washington, are digging into the circumstances surrounding the breach. Coinbase has said the hack involves criminals bribing employees and contractors in India to obtain client data. And Lyft is bringing back cheaper shared trips at airports 2 years after those group rides went away. A spokesperson says Lyft is testing out shared rides at 8 airports, including those in Boston, San Francisco, and Chicago, with discounts of as much as 20% compared with the regular ride. Other airports getting the shared Lyft rides include Los Angeles, Denver, and New Orleans. Futures are slipping this morning after stocks inched higher to start the week. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
If you'd like to take part in the show today, call the BON Bank talk line at 442-8255. That's 442-TALK. And remember, if you're looking to purchase or refinance your home, call Christina Bagwell at the BON Bank Mortgage Department at 448-2430.
To take part in the show, call 442-8255. That's 442-TALK. 970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYO. Now back to Talkback. Welcome back to Talk Back for this terrific Tuesday morning with Trish and Nathan. Glad to have you along as I'm looking again at my lovely photo of my toast.
Their toast.
It's so good this morning. Thank
I
you,
know.
listener. Appreciate that. Well, yesterday I had the opportunity to attend the North Rapids Business and Industry Alliance meeting. Al was there as well, and probably one of the largest crowds I've seen there. I think there were like at least 3, if not 4 rows of
That's
U-shaped
awesome.
tables. And I heard them bring
Kind of like last time when the governor was here not too long ago. Yeah,
so
it was
huge
pretty packed.
crowd, and I think people were really interested in hearing just Speaker of the House Pro Tem Mike Johnson, who's the president of the North Refuge Business and Industry Alliance, was actually the featured speaker. And he had to do things a little out of order because he mentioned that he needed to be in Baton Rouge by 2:15, 2:30.
Yeah, I figured he probably had a pretty tight schedule.
Right. And so it was kind of funny. He doesn't mind making fun of himself, and I enjoy his self-deprecating humor. But he said goodbye to everybody. He made a comment about needing to leave, and he left. And then about 3 minutes later, he comes kind of like tiptoeing back in while the next speaker is speaking, and everybody looks over and he goes, "I forgot my keys." And he grabs his keys out of the podium and then heads back out to the car. But great sport. But he shared some things about the package of bills that were being talked about. Had a nice little slideshow. I didn't take pictures of the slideshow. I tried to take notes as he was talking. And he talked about some of the things that he felt would be very successful. The package of bills that had passed out of the House, and many of them have successfully passed out of the Senate Q&A committee. So he was positive about that. The modified comparative fault bill is one that he felt would be very transformative, and that's the one that basically says, if I'm not mistaken, that you can't sue if you're at 50% or more at fault because you caused it. So you can't cause an accident and then turn around and benefit from it. So that's one of the bills that he was promoting. He did talk about the advertising, and he said, you can't change the advertising from the perspective of the First Amendment. But he told an interesting story of how powerful some of the advertising lobby is. He mentioned about a story that was going to be run. I think it was on the millions that were being spent in the New Orleans or Baton Rouge area. And one of the advertisers told the newspaper, he heard about it, that if you run that story, I'm pulling my advertising. And guess what? The story didn't get run.
And I'm sure that advertiser was what?
Yeah, it was right. And look, and to his credit, and I've said this here as well, trial attorneys are not bad people. They're operating within the framework, the rules and the laws that we have. He said, so we've got to change the rules and the laws. They're not bad people. We gave them this platform.
Well, that's the thing. We gave them this platform. And the advertising dollars that they spend, I mean, everybody is welcoming with open arms.
Right.
And again, this is why they spend all of this. But it's made it such a powerful entity that, that then what do you do?
Right. If any trial lawyers want to advertise with KSYL 445, no, I'm just kidding. But I mean, advertising is a real thing.
Right.
But when you have extra influence, and you forwarded me a story from the Louisiana Motor Transport Association about a billboard they wanted to put up, that they weren't. Were they not allowed to put it up?
Well, they wanted to put this billboard up, and basically Lamar advertising executives would not approve it to go up on any of their billboards.
And the reason they wouldn't let it go up?
Because it depicted their largest advertisers on their billboards.
So here's the message from the Louisiana Motor Transport Association. The billboard Lamar doesn't want you to see. We had a clear message. Tell Senate President Cameron Henry we want real insurance reform now. But Lamar Advertising refused our billboard, not because of content, but because it depicted some of their highest paying clients, billboard lawyers. And I will say that it does have cartoon looking.
It is 4 caricatures of 4 of the biggest billboard advertisers. And so, the point is, when the billboard companies are refusing business to protect, their attorney clients, well, it's kind of clear who's driving all of this, right?
Yeah. Well, and I had a great conversation with a gentleman this week who was in the insurance business for years, and he talked about the climate, the insurance. Every company, everybody's going to make as much money as you let them make. Right. But we have allowed this, and we created this stereotype. I love Brian.
If you're a publicly held company, that is your duty. It's your obligation to make your shareholders money, right?
That's right.
But yet, guess who all the trial lawyers are trying to push out is this whole story about the insurance executive with the jet.
Right.
Never mind, okay, how many of those trial lawyers have numerous jets, including the one that put the governor and how many legislators on his jet, right? So, it's about who is controlling the narrative that you're listening to.
Well, and I've read later that particular insurance was a was not a normal insurance company. There was nuances to that. There's always nuances to it, but just like there may be a nuance to this phone call we're going to take right now. Good morning. You're on Talkback with Nathan and Trish.
Hey, thank you for taking my call.
Yes, sir.
I want to challenge you on one statement you made. You said the trial lawyers are not bad people.
That's what I said. I did say that.
Yeah, you just said. That depends on how you define bad. Now we can for sure say they're not doing anything illegal. Not doing anything illegal. They're operating within the framework, as you so eloquently said. But we didn't find ourselves in this situation by accident. We didn't fall down and have some of the worst insurance laws in the country. This was a goal that people got together in the back room and came up with and said, okay, how do we achieve this goal? What do we have to do? Step 1, step 2, step 3. And then they worked their plan. That's why I tried to get Senator Luno to describe to us what happened, because he's been there the whole way. So we need to, Matthew was a tax collector. He wasn't doing anything illegal. He was operating within the framework of the Roman system. But he was ostracized among his people because he was amassing wealth for himself beyond what the normal people were able to amass by collaborating with the enemy. And so that there is room for peer pressure in our society and in our culture. And we're not applying enough peer pressure to these guys. Like the illustration I tried to make last call from Bastiat of with Al poisoning the other announcers and using despicable means to achieve the same goal of an increase in his income. But we need to honor people who do things that are honorable, and we need to dishonor people who do things that are dishonorable. Maybe not illegal, dishonorable. And right now we have a lot of people suffering in our state. That meeting in Pineville, man, for hours, 3-4 hours that meeting went on. The people who were doing business, and people that are significant. The Han Roofing guy said that he had to go operate in other states. He still operates in Louisiana, but because our laws are so bad, he has to operate in other states in order to make a profit. And he maintains his business here for his employees here, and this is where his family is. We are stretching, hard-working Louisianians because a group of people, a small group of people, decided to create this system and through legislation. So anyway, I just want to challenge your definition of the word bad there and apply it like peanut butter where it belongs.
That's 2 days in a row.
Jelly on this sourdough bread.
Well, I'm messing with you, but I get your point.
Hey, it's good. It's good to have those kinds of discussions.
It is. I think it's very helpful. I think I wanted to take it away from bad as a person to saying they're using the system that was created, and that was Representative Johnson's comment yesterday. Well, the legislators did, and he said we made this mess. We've got to fix it, which I appreciated his perspective on that. But within every framework, I'll never forget the story of unintended consequences when the English were in control of India, and they set up a bounty for every cobra head that would be turned in. They would pay a certain amount of bounty. Well, it wasn't long before unscrupulous or wise, however you want to say it, business people decided, well, let's just start some cobra farms, and then we'll raise some cobras, and we'll have more heads to turn in, and that's what they did.
Yeah.
And then when the English found out that this was an unintended consequence of their bill, they ended the bounty system, so the cobra farmers let all their cobras free.
Oh, no.
So the end result was worse. And that's the whole thing of trying to. It does sound like we didn't think of what are the unintended consequences of some of these bills. And I think, Dave, and we've got to take a break, but I honestly think we created a culture where people now see suing as a business. And I'm not talking about the lawyers. I'm talking about the people driving down the street.
Yeah,
who
absolutely.
Think, you know what? I'm not going to go to the casino and waste my money down there.
Yep.
I might let somebody rear end me on the South Traffic Circle.
Yep.
So, how do we change that culture? That's another story for another day.
Especially when it comes to big trucks.
Oh,
like this is what Louisiana Motor Transport is dealing with every day too. All these big truckers, how many people are purposely trying to, to cause something so that then that's their first thing.
And I know businesses that chose to no longer put their business name on the side of their vehicle because they thought they were making themselves targets.
100%.
They drive unmarked vehicles.
100%.
So,
Yep.
Great conversation, Dave. Thank you so much. We'll be back with more on Talkback right after this.
KSYL. The legend lived on is coming to Alexandria. It's the world-renowned Elvis tribute, starring Moses Snow and Craig Parker, two electrifying performers bringing the king back to life on stage with special guest MC Elvis Presley, former tour producer Charles Stone. Friday, May 31st at the Lamore Earls Entertainment Center next to the Coliseum. Showtime at 7 p.m. Tickets start at just $29. VIP meet and greet tickets available for $69. Get yours now at the Coliseum box office or Ticketmaster.com.
Attention all real estate agents, property owners, and lenders. When you or a client needs a real estate attorney, call the professionals at Thompson Law Firm. Whether the legal matter is basic or complex, the Thompson Law Firm can accurately guide you or your client to a successful outcome. That's why numerous industry professionals have trusted the Thompson Law Firm for years. They also handle estate planning, successions, and business law. Call them at 473-0052. I am a paid non-client attorney spokesperson.
Hey, it's Matt Moscona inviting you to join us for Tuesday's AFR, powered by Sunshine, your hometown John Deere dealer in Louisiana. Jay Dixon stops by for his weekly recruiting visit, and the SEC tournament begins in Hoover. Join us 3 to 6. Alexandria, 94.7 ESPN.
Now back to Talkback, 970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYL.
Man, I love that music right there.
That's a good one.
Okay, so great conversation, Dave. Thank you for calling in and challenging me. I never mind the challenge. I'll take it and appreciate the opportunity to converse about it. So I'm going to get back to the North Rapids Business and Industry Alliance meeting, but I got a text now just a few moments ago from Jimmy Saltel. I think he sent both of us that.
Yeah.
He had some breaking news. SB 72 made its way through House and Means yesterday, so it's on its way to the House floor. And, by calling it SB, that means it started on the Senate side. So it's passed the Senate 37-0 back on April the 22nd. And now it's made its way yesterday or completed its way through House and Means and was reported favorably yesterday, 14-0 to the Legislative Bureau. They'll do the fiscal cost, I believe is how that will work. But what it could do is potentially impact 2 CLTCC campuses for building projects. That would be the Rod Brady campus in Gina and the Ward H. Nashville campus in Cottonport. And one of them, the Rod Brady, already has some money in what's called Priority 1 funding. We could potentially see some additional funds. And then the Avoyles campus in Cottonport would see a new project potentially. So big news coming out of that information there from Jimmy Saltel. Send us that breaking news, Jimmy. Thank you for helping us break that here on the
I know, terrific news for CLTCC if that does get pushed all the way through. So congratulations.
Absolutely. So that would let the CLTCC maintain its borrowing authority outside of traditional state construction budget process to build some projects.
Which is a big deal.
It is, because what a lot of times what that does is it's a savings of money and also a time factor.
Right.
All right, let's turn back to the North Rapids business meeting. Some other things that talked about, Representative Johnson talked about they have a new distracted drivers bill, which would be no handheld devices at all, period. I thought we already had that.
I kind of did too. We don't?
I think it maybe broadens it.
Well, now I do. I mean, school zones, I know that. I mean, those are posted, no handheld anything.
I didn't write down the bill number, so I'm not able to look it up, but he said that's one that he believes is going to get favorable passage. He also mentioned that 5 years ago, he had filed a bill to limit lawyer advertising. That bill was vetoed by John Bill Edwards, but it's been brought back up, I think he said by a freshman representative, and he feels like that one will get passed. He also said...
I'd love to know the details on that one. I'll have to go look it up.
So I also mentioned that HB1 passed almost unanimously. That's the budget bill. And he said what was really interesting is that if you recall, there was discussion of perhaps not having having to do some pretty big budget cuts. They were able to balance it by using some Doge practices. He said Louisiana has LA Doge, and they cut $91 million in unnecessary equipment expenses.
Which is terrific because Louisiana needed its own Doge.
That's right. $26.3 million in Medicaid expenditures. He said we were actually sending money to people living out of state. They were not even Louisiana citizens. They had moved away. They were still getting checks. $20 million saved in a hiring freeze. He said that over time they'll allow some of those to go back in. But you put that together, that's over $130 million of cuts. They also paid down the state police retirement. And he talked really frankly about the amendments back in January. He said we blew it. I wrote it down with quotation marks.
Yeah.
We blew it with the amendments. And
we absolutely did.
Honesty there. But he said they're going to take the pieces and try to come back like one piece at a time and do a better job of explaining.
I hope so, because we're being taxed to the gills now.
Yeah, absolutely. So he also talked about a local government option to phase out the inventory tax. And interestingly, if they do that, then it's going to allow, there'll be a one-time credit given to the parishes that phase that out. Rick Ranson followed that up with an question. He said, the inventory tax is a horrible tax. If you own a business, you pay that inventory tax.
Yep.
He said, but in the city of Alexandria, it's about $1 million a year, and the bill as stands only helps parishes. It doesn't help municipalities. So will they consider that? And you saw Representative Johnson kind of, making note of that. Okay, we'll go back and address that. So that could be some big news. Some other big news about the Sungas Beaver Lake came out. He said some positive things about it, but then he actually, as he left to head back to Baton Rouge, turned it over to Cindy Sespiva, who introduced the vice president for Sungas Renewables, who was there.
Okay.
And he said that let me just scroll down to that part. He says that they are funded. They are moving into the final stages with C2X. The final phase of development should take about 14 months. They are currently working on geotech information, permitting, surveying, etc., and they hope to finish the plan by next summer and start construction in 2026. So that's the plan. And then, I can't remember who it was that asked. Someone, maybe from Crest, I'm not sure who it was, said, has the final investment decision been made? And he said that will be made next summer. So it's that same thing.
It's that same
so
thing.
many good things are happening, but until that final investment
That's the
decision
thing. Yeah, that's the thing.
So that was good. Mike, Representative Johnson also mentioned something. It doesn't work on my phone, but maybe it'll work on yours. It's called the LA Ledge app, and it's LALEGE, all one word. My phone has the brand new update that Android just put out, and so when I tried to find the app, it says it only works in older versions of your operating system. So they haven't updated that. They wrote it before the new Android 16 came out, but it will let you watch live and on demand the committee meetings, floor meetings, communicate. He says it would be a great tool, and I hope they get it fixed for the newest Android, because that's a great tool.
Yeah.
So, all right, we're going to take our last break of this hour. We'll come back, chat with you a little bit more. Phone lines are open, 318-442-8255. And don't forget, at the top of the hour, Dr. Carl Carpenter and your phone calls. Roast him a little bit. He'll like it.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics with 27 providers and 3 locations. Someone can see you today. Stick around. More of Talkback is on the way.
Got a big day ahead of you? Then it's best to fuel up with Summerspin Best at Ricardo's Restaurant. Walk right in and just smell that home-style cooking. Place your order, take a seat, and do breakfast right till 9:30 this morning. Get fresh biscuits, eggs any way you like them, melt in your mouth, pancakes, grits, hash browns, sausage, bacon, even wraps and sandwiches. And don't forget their fresh brewed coffee. Ricardo's Restaurant, 28 West, right across from the Coliseum. Your breakfast is waiting for you.
From America's #1 travel radio show, I'm Robert Carey. With today's RM World Travel Minute. The recent travel polls on our show website had us asking how much time you spend at airports before departing and landing. The results were pretty interesting. There was also a study shared with us that listed which airports took the longest to navigate before departing, and I'm about to give you those findings. George Bush International in Houston required the most time to get through, with an average of 3 hours and 20 minutes. Chicago O'Hare, Los Angeles International, and Orlando International were all over 3 hours. Denver, Miami, JFK here in New York, Detroit, San Francisco, Seattle, and Minneapolis-St. Paul were all between 2 hours and 45 minutes and just under 3 hours. And these times don't even factor in browsing the stores or enjoying a meal or a drink. The best U.S. airports with the shortest waits where you can arrive the latest before takeoff. John Glenn Columbus International in just 53 minutes. Palm Beach International and Southwest Florida International in Fort Myers for just under an hour. More travel info awaits you anytime on our show website at rmworldtravel.com. Happy travels, everyone.
970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYO. To take part in the show, call 442-8255. That's 442-TALK back. It's the final segment of the 8 o'clock hour. 7 o'clock hour. 8
Yeah,
o'clock
7 o'clock hour.
What time is it?
Yeah.
So,
You had me all confused there.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's okay.
A couple other things from the North Rapids. They talked about the reorganization of DOTD. They're changing some some titles and putting some things in place that I think will be more productive. And one of the things that they're doing is they're stopping the diversion of funds that used to go for anything that used to be earmarked for actual construction but was diverted to administration is now going back to actual construction. So he's felt like we would see more work on LSU, on Highway 28 East. He felt like we'd see some more of that coming up soon. He did mention LSUA's big wins with the downtown rock there and the port funding, which is more of a sun gas thing. So some really good stuff taking place in that meeting yesterday, and appreciated Representative Johnson making himself available.
I know, I hate I couldn't make it. I was supposed to make it there, but my child was getting on a flight yesterday, and that took the precedent. So, our LSU child is doing her semester abroad, so I was doing the drop-off at the airport yesterday here. I mean, she just had one hop here to Atlanta and Atlanta straight overseas, and so, I was a little nervous until I knew she touched down this morning.
How long was that flight from Atlanta?
It was a little over 9 hours.
Okay.
Yeah. A nice long haul, but I'm just so excited for her to be doing this. You know, it wasn't such a big thing when we were in college. And now, getting to have that experience and doing it through your university. And the universities make it easy in conjunction with the universities over there. And make sure that those classes transfer your credit easily enough and all that kind of good stuff. So, I mean, what a great thing. And it's so funny as you talk about it. I'm finding more and more of our friends, the people I know, they're like, oh, yeah, our child's going here to study and here to study and here to study. So, I mean, that's so terrific. It's the time of your life to do that, right?
Well, yeah, some people to go after college, they're going during college. That's great.
Yeah. And to study in a different environment like that, is pretty cool.
That's going to be a phenomenal feather in her cap, note on her resume, but also just a great life experience.
Oh, it's the best life experience. But that took precedent because I told my husband I think that leaving the airport yesterday might have been harder than when we dropped her off at LSU because I mean LSU is only 2 hours away. I could get there if I needed to.
That's right.
It was just a little bit further.
Oh, from here to
deep breath. But yeah, so
I was joking with you asking if you were using Live 360, and you're like, no, we're not.
We were never Life 360 users. Again, it's just, I don't know. And I think it really started becoming a thing. Our oldest kid was already, through that stage. And I thought, I don't need to know exactly what speed they're driving. I need to know that we taught them to follow the speed limit and to do all of those things, But, hey, to each their own.
I do use Life 360. I've only started using it the last 3 or 4 years, but especially since my daughter started driving, my youngest daughter. But one of the things that I went ahead and started paying for, you get 24 hours of history in it. Yeah. For the free version, but I paid for it. I think it's a week or a month, I forget which, but I can go back and see 2 or 3 days ago, because we've had conversations where you told me you were going to be in such and such a place, but Live 360 says, and it's like, well, what happened was?
I keep saying I am so glad that I did not grow up in that time, but, I feel like, we want to teach our kids to make good decisions, and at some point in time you have to trust them to make those good decisions, and it's that fine line between where do you let that go. And it is hard with all the technology that we have, and it's hard for them too. They're used to tracking where their friends are. All of them they track their friends on Snapchat and see where everybody is. We joked that back in the day, I mean, how did we find out where everybody was hanging out?
Back in the late 1900s.
Back in the late 1900s. How did we figure out where everybody was hanging out?
Isn't that a great question?
You had to actually make a phone call and then figure out who was where, or you just drove around until you found people. It was just a whole different time.
One thing I don't feel like kids today know how to do is be bored.
No, they
That's
don't.
an important part of imagination.
And, you know, we were even talking about that with our kids this weekend because we were so excited to have 3 of the 4 kids home this weekend hanging out with us. And we talked about how much time they spent outside, like especially during the summer and all that, you know, between, you know, we had the trampoline back there. We had, you know, just the whole big swing set in the backyard and the dogs and all that. And, I mean, they were outside all the time because these phones weren't yet to that point.
Right.
You know, I mean, I remember when Ashley got her first phone, our oldest, and it was still like that little flip with the little keyboard, you know.
Right.
It wasn't, your life wasn't on that phone. And so it was different. But yeah, now they sit there with this screen running with a video on it while they're doing their schoolwork on this screen, while they've got something on the third screen over here. They have no idea what it's like to just sit and
Imagine.
have no digital input.
Well, I mean, in some ways they'll be more equipped for a future that is AI driven.
Well, no, that's true. I
But
mean,
in other ways,
it's the way the world is going.
Right. Well, our next hour coming up after 8 o'clock, we'll be talking with somebody who may have some perspective about that. Dr. Carl Carpenter will be joining us to reminisce about 45 years of educational experience and what it's like.
Pre-electronic and post-electronic.
Yeah, that's right.
Right?
He's seen it all the way through. So looking forward to that. We've already mentioned to you earlier, if you were a student of his, we'd love for you to call in and comment to him, maybe roast him a little bit. Yeah, I mean, medium roast, you know, that dark roast stuff. But we're glad to have him in the studio today. And I have a special connection I'll share with him and with you guys in the next hour. So looking forward to conversing with him. But I just got a text from one of our listeners said that bored kids build imaginations. That's exactly what we were talking about.
That's exactly right. When you have to go outside and you know, I remember going down, there was a creek bed way down below where my house was, and we would go down there and we would make things out of the rocks. And I mean, it was just, yeah, it was all imagination.
Well, you weren't in Louisiana, but we crawfished. You know, we'd tie a hot dog on the end of a string,
There you go.
go down a crawfish hole and see if we could bring that crawfish. There's all kinds of fun
There you
stuff
go.
you have to do to entertain yourself. We've got another whole hour of talkback coming up with you in the next hour. Dr. Carl Carpenter recently retired from Bible High School, but many years throughout the Rapid Ferris educational system. We'll be talking with him and your phone calls on the BOM talk line at 318-442-8255. Stick around for more on Talkback.
You've been listening to Talkback. The opinions expressed were those of the hosts and callers, and not necessarily those of Fenlaw Broadcasting. FM 104.9, AM 970, KSYL, and KRRV 100.3 HD3, Alexandria. It's 8 o'clock. This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Progressive Insurance.
I'm Vicki Barker. President Trump is heading to Capitol Hill this hour to get any lingering doubters among House Republicans to back the sweeping legislation he's called his big, beautiful bill. The House Democrats.
Republicans are trying to jam this big, ugly bill down the throats of the American people.
House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries arguing that the bill cuts food and medical aid for the nation's poorest while handing the richest a big tax break. More from Naomi.
Some hardliners argue the bill's spending cuts don't go far enough and that work requirements should kick in sooner. Disagreements also remain on the state and local tax deduction or SALT cap. House Speaker Mike Johnson is eyeing Thursday for a final vote ahead of his self-imposed Memorial Day deadline.
President Trump says his latest round of parleying with the Ukrainian and Russian leaders has set the scene for bona fide peace talks. Here's CBS White House correspondent Lee J.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who spoke to Trump twice yesterday, said this is a defining moment. The world can now see whether its leaders are truly capable of securing a ceasefire and achieving real, lasting peace.
The Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking and racketeering trial has heard singer Dawn Richard say she witnessed Combs physically abusing his former girlfriend, singer Cassie Ventura, who testified last week. CBS's Sharika Duncan has more.
Someone else that we expect to hear from, Cassie Ventura's mother, as well as a former chef for Combs.
Now, as for Don Richard, he does have a pending civil lawsuit against Combs, claiming allegations of psychological and physical abuse. Combs denies those allegations.
4 days after that mass jailbreak in New Orleans, 6 inmates remain at large. City council members like Joe Jerusa will be grilling the chef.
We've had a breakout that occurred at 12:30 in the morning, and nobody noticed until 9:30. I mean, the consent judgment says we should be rounding every 30 minutes at random times to see what's supposed to happen.
The UN's humanitarian chief, Tom Fletcher, says 14,000 babies in Gaza could die in the next 2 days unless aid can reach them. More from the BBC's Mike Thompson.
The UN's humanitarian chief said he hopes 100 aid trucks would cross into Gaza today, but added it could be tough, saying they get impeded at every point. A situation made even tougher by Israel's renewed offensive against Hamas.
Home Depot says it won't be passing any tariff-related price hikes to customers. Here's CBS business analyst Jill Flushing.
In an interview with CNBC, Chief Financial Officer Richard McPhail said that due to the company's scale and the partnerships that they have created with their suppliers, they intend to maintain their current pricing levels across the company.
Progressive Insurance. Progressive can protect your home, auto, boat, motorcycle, ATV, RV, and more. In short, a lot of things. Bundle today at Progressive.com.
If you need to hire, it seems like the whole process can be exhausting. You search resumes, wait for the right candidates to apply, set up initial interviews. It's a lot of time and work. Well, what if you could meet with qualified candidates for your job the very next day? Now you can with Zip Intro from ZipRecruiter. And right now, you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro is super easy to use. You simply pick a time, and it does all the work of finding and scheduling qualified candidates for you. Then you can choose who you want to talk to and meet with great people on back-to-back video calls as soon as the next day. Best of all, you save time and energy.
Try Zip Intro for free right now at this exclusive web address, ZipRecruiter.com/free. Zip Intro. Post jobs today. Talk to qualified candidates tomorrow. Once again, go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Louisiana Radio Network, I'm Jeff Palermo. State police has apprehended a fourth escapee from the Orleans Parish jailbreak. Authorities arrested 21-year-old Gary Price in New Orleans East. 6 fugitives remain on the run. LSU President William Tate is resigned to be the next president at Rutgers University. LSU's Vice President for Agriculture, Matt Lee, will serve as interim president, while a nationwide search takes place to find Tate's replacement. A survey out of LSU called the 2025 Louisiana Survey finds an increase in residents who believe the state is headed in the right direction. It's now 50-50 on the percentage of residents who believe the state is headed in the right direction. Survey Director Michael Henderson says, with that being said, respondents to the survey believe they are taxed too much.
People tend to say taxes are too high. They say the income tax is too high. They especially say sales taxes in Louisiana are too high. We've actually seen those numbers increase in terms of the share of people that are saying they're too high, especially on the sales tax.
LRF.
This is Dr. Jonathan Hunter with the clinics, where we pride ourselves in providing exceptional care. We offer a wide range of services, including primary care, family and chronic care, acute and urgent care, podiatry, and gastroenterology, along with an on-site lab X-ray. Our new family medicine physician, Dr. Noah Miller, is accepting new patients. Same-day appointments are available, and most insurance and Medicare are accepted. The clinics, 1587 North Bolton, 445-9823, online at theclinics.us.
Good morning. A mixture of sunshine and clouds on our Tuesday. We'll see chance of a gray shower or thunderstorm. Only about a 20% chance of that. Then we get down on the windy side. Two winds out of the south-southwest at 10 to 20. See the afternoon highs near 90 degrees. Now tonight, we're going to again see a shower or a thunderstorm up until about midnight. Overnight lows down to 65. And then sunshine on Wednesday with the highs near 90. So that's your forecast from the Stenlaw Broadcasting Weather Center. I'm Dick Grayson. Currently 76 degrees in Stenlaw.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics. With 27 providers and 3 locations, someone can see you today.
It's Talkback, Central Louisiana's longest-running talk show. Whether it's the guests or the callers, Talkback is where Central Louisiana begins its conversation.
morning and happy Tuesday. Terrific Tuesday here on Talkback KSYL. Nathan, Martin, Trish, love with you for the ride this morning. And as promised, just as we said, Dr. Carl Carpenter is in the house, and he brought on the better half. There's a reason that the wife is called the better half, because it's truth. But Dr. Carl Carpenter and Terry Carpenter, glad to have both of you here in the studio with us this morning.
Good morning, thank you.
And Terry said she didn't want to talk, so we're not going to make her talk. But we're glad you're here. She gave me the phone number. Well, Doc, we wanted to bring you in because you have achieved something that, really admirable. 45 years in education. You just retired after being the longest tenured principal in the history of Bible High School. And I know it's probably a little bit of brutal torture to make you set your alarm clock the second day off work. But thank you for coming in early and talking to us about your career in education in Rapides Parish.
Well, thank you, Nathan.
Not just in Rapides Parish, right? But
correct. That's correct. And I guess what helped along with the longevity of the career is the fact that I did have two distinct careers. I graduated from Northwestern State in 1979 and took a job at Oberlin High School in Allen Parish as a band director. And the band director world is just something that's a lot of fun. Marching band, concert band, all the different programs that you have in a music program. And a lot of trips down to Lake Charles and McNeese State University. We played in the Contraband Festival. A lot of different things that you do in Oberlin. And it's a small school, and then I moved to AA school, Winfield Senior High, and I spent a year in Winfield. And then moved from Winfield, the job at Tioga High came open, and I took the job at 4A High School at Tioga at the time. And so I spent 17 years in the band room. There was 1 year that was a crossover year as I was assistant principal. I was also kind of the band director as well. And so that's the assistant principal job at Tioga lasted for 4 years. And so, doing the band and all of the fun that goes along with the band and the wonderful kids that we've taught over the years, there's many great memories. Then moving from that into administration as the principal at Carter C. Raymond down in LeCount, a small school down in LeCount. And it's an amazing experience because there's a lot of different cultures in that area, and all the kids from Forest Hill, the different nationalities, and wonderful kids there. I mean, that was just a great experience at Carter C. Raymond, and learned so much about people. And then, of course, Gary Jones at the time was superintendent, made the transfer for me to go to Bible High School. What a joy that was. It was quite an experience the first year, going from the smallest school in the parish to the largest high school in the parish.
That had to be quite a transition, but someone trusted your ability. At the time, the superintendent was a former general, if I'm not mistaken. Some guy with some military experience, and Gary Jones. Name was right. Yeah, I forget Jones, like Smith or Jones. But Dr. Jones, as the superintendent, who obviously knew how to judge character and leadership, saw something in you and told you get ready to move. And that was quite an experience, I'm sure.
That's right. I do appreciate that, and I still have a lot of fond memories of his leadership skills and his, principals meetings that we would have, and it was no doubt he was a general. Back in the days with Dr. Patsy Jenkins, the principals meetings were scripted. It was like 0800, she would walk in the door. 0802 would be a roll call. We had all of the, it was pretty impressive. And then Dr. Jones was just really fly by the seat of the pants type leadership. But he got things done, right? And that was, a lot of fun working for both of those individuals. Dr. Jenkins is one that pointed me to my first principalship, and for years I would call her just about every year just to say thanks, But then Dr. Jones moved me into the principalship at Bible High School, and it's kind of like the dog chasing the car. Like, what do you do when you catch it? And that was a project to get used to that large size of faculty. The 42-acre campus, there's 10 different buildings on that campus. So, yeah, it was quite a different
one of the things Jeff Powell, the current superintendent, has often said is that every one of his principals is the CEO of a multi-million-dollar enterprise.
No doubt.
And he wants people to understand that, I mean, obviously education is the product, or the students are the product, but education is the tool. But you're running a business. You've got employees, and you've got maintenance and repairs and expansions at times, and so it really is running a multi-million-dollar operation. And when you go through schooling, is there part of the schooling that prepares you for that?
Well, in grad school, there are school law classes, the EDL 650, EDL 655, all of those different classes that you take in grad school. You have curriculum and instruction, then you have school finance, then you have the school law. And there's a standing joke with principals that two things that get you fired is finances and romances. And the concern is that, like you said, $1 million enterprise, we have the activity funds that just are by the, I use the term multiplied thousands of activities that go on any campus, and every one have a distinct, the bowling team, the archery team, the football team, the band, choir, theater. All of those different activities on campus have a different activity account. And all the money that's raised by this group or this group, they put it into their account. And then they just kind of keep up with that for us to use. We created the payment request form anytime you need to write a check out of your account. And that is a business. And in operating the business, of course, part of the business operation is personnel, managing people.
Managing people in your personnel, plus the students, plus the parents, all of that. And then the stories, I'm sure, that come out of all of it. I didn't even think about that. Being one of the parents that I've fundraised for every sport that my kids participated in, you do that. You turn over those funds for them to use for all their things, but you never think about, on the higher level, being the person in charge of the organization of all that.
Right. Well, and
add that to the teachers, the students, the parents. Yes, and all of the.
The school district does provide a extracurricular fund. They send us money for extracurricular activities, and it's as far as the operation of those activities, we deal with we depend on a lot of the parent support. There's a football parent club, there's a soccer parent club, there's a band parents club. All of the parents that, theater, the parents gather together and they'll do the popcorn and they'll do things at the intermissions. All of that is just really a tremendous activity, that goes on campus. All for the good of the kids.
Absolutely.
Well, some of those sports are very expensive. I mean, just the price of a helmet's like $300 or something like that, and you got to buy 100 of them, and then transportation and all the other that goes along with it. So there's a tremendous, again, businesses that's needed to monitor and keep all that in check.
And one of the things about football helmets, you just mentioned that they have to be reconditioned after so many years. You can't just go and butt heads with football, linemen across the line, and then that helmet's not going to last you forever.
Right.
And you have to have those sent off and safety checks going on with those, all of the football helmets, the shoulder pads, all of it has to be reconditioned year in, year out.
Well, someone made the comment the other day of how hard it's going to be for anyone to fill your shoes, because you and Terry both, over the years, have been, it seems like, at every function somehow. It seems like if you go to a football game, basketball game, baseball game, softball game, drama, play, concert, it doesn't matter. You're going to see one, if not both, of the Carpenters. And that's not mandatory, but obviously you took that very seriously, that your presence was important. What inspired you to do that?
Well, it's important for the kids to see you there. If I'm going to go to football practice and work out and then get a chance to go up into the stands and turn around and look and see the principal, go to the basketball game, see the principal, go to the play, there's the principal. To me, it's just important for the kids to see me there, as well as for the parents to see me there. Because, as you mentioned about parent fundraising, they want to see that their child is supported by the administration of the school. And so, it's very important. And, My predecessor was Mr. Dwayne Lemoyne. Have just the utmost respect for Mr. Lemoyne. He left Pineville High, became superintendent, and that's just a kind of a natural progression for a lot of these jobs. But I made the comment, so I'm gonna go to everything. And Dwayne said, you can't. Because there's a lot of times there's 2 or 3 things going on at the same time. There's a choir concert going on while there's a soccer team going on at the stadium. And so we make an appearance at one and then run down the hill, go to the other. It's just tons of things all the time.
We're talking with Dr. Carl Carpenter, recently retired from education. I've been saying Rapides Parish, but of course we mentioned Oberlin. Is Oberlin in Allen Parish, right? And then you were up in Winfield and Wynn Parish, and then back in Rapides Parish. But you graduated from a Rapides Parish school. Your high school graduation was from a small school on the south side of the river, known now as Ash.
Correct. It was a brand new school. You grow up in Alexandria, it's all about Bolton High. I'm going to be a Bolton Bear. And, then they opened that school with that air-conditioned carpet. And it's like, what? So went to Ash and graduated in 1974. Was in that first, as a matter of fact, earlier, 7, 8, and 9 junior high. High schools were 10, 11, 12. And then when they opened Ash, 9th grade moved into the high schools, 9, 10, 11, 12. And so as a 9th grader incoming to Ash, and it was a great school at the time. Of course, my memories and a lot of my beginnings as my professional career in music began at Ash. And the band program there with Jerry Payne, and that was the era of the Ash band that went to Europe, and we toured countries all over Europe, played these concerts on these Alps and outdoor concerts, and it's great fun. Wow. That's what inspired me to go to college and get a major in music.
I love that. I mean, I think it's something that I feel like is getting lost today in the education of the kids, is that opportunity to join band and learn an instrument and do all those things. Growing up, I mean, I was in the middle of Ohio, so band was huge. Everybody wanted to be a part of Ohio State band eventually. And but our high school bands, our junior high bands, it was such a huge thing, and I love that for what it does for kids. And what a neat thing to be able to go travel like that as a part of a high school band.
Well, that was, the fun part of it is just to being part of something that is bigger than yourself. And, to play second chair tuba, which is what my instrument was. And then, Monty LeMays left, and he played for years in Las Vegas. And, a lot of professional musicians came out of that group. Stephen Kaplan just graduated, retired from UNLV, after a career as an oboist.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that made that mistake. And I said that to you earlier. I mean, maybe I'm playing at the seed. You just graduated. Retired. And there's some similarities there. So we've got Dr. Carl Carpenter in the studio. We need to take a break. When we come back, I want to talk to you about the musical aspects of your career and, kind of that drawing to being a band director and how that impacted your life. And also your phone calls are welcome at 318-442-8255. Anybody's welcome to call in and have a question, comment, observation, or a small roast. We wouldn't mind that. Stick around for more. We'll talk back right after this.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics with 27 providers and 3 locations. Someone can see you today. Stick around. More of Talkback is on the way.
The cost of air travel is more than just the ticket price. It's also fuel, meals, lodging, parking, and time. The more we fly AEX, the better our chances of bringing back flights to Houston and Charlotte. Support AEX and help our community grow. Find your true cost at local.flyaex.org.
Attention all real estate agents, property owners, and lenders. When you or a client needs a real estate attorney, call the professionals at Thompson Law Firm. Whether the legal matter is basic or complex, the Thompson Law Firm can accurately guide you or your client to a successful outcome. That's why numerous industry professionals have trusted the Thompson Law Firm for years. They also handle estate planning, successions, and business law.
Call them at 473-0052. I am a paid non-client attorney spokesperson.
When it comes to vaping, the truth can get clouded. So let's make it clear. Vaping is not safe for you.
Because vaping can put microscopic particles into your lungs and dangerous things like metals into your body.
And nicotine, which can harm a person's brain development during their mid-20s.
With appealing flavors, high nicotine levels, and lots of promotion on social media.
Many kids think vaping is harmless, but it's not.
So talk to your kids about the risks of vaping, because when you talk, they hear you.
Learn more at underagedrinking.samhsa.gov.
At Citadel Broadcasting, we're very proud of our 10 local radio stations. One of those is Magic 100.9, where we play light favorites of the 80s, 90s, and more. All of your light favorites with very little talk. Give us a try sometime. Magic 100.9.
Joey from Vermont. A farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina. A single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Leah from Ohio. An injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
If you'd like to take part in the show today, call the BON Bank talk line at 442-8255. That's 442-TALK. And remember, if you're looking to purchase or refinance your home, call Christina Bagwell at the BON Bank Mortgage Department at 448-2430.
Now back to Talk Back. 970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYL.
When I first hear that bass bit, you almost think another one bites the dust. But that's not quite the song there.
You almost do. Good point.
Well, there's a few folks in this room who enjoy low brass. Trish, you played baritone.
I started out with a saxophone, but then, yes, I made the transition, baritone and French horn.
And I've shared my transition starting out with trumpet, then to French horn, then to tuba. And when I met Dr. Carl Carpenter, I met him. I was a tuba player, and he was the student teacher for Dr. Cottrell Wren. I don't think it was doctor yet, but Cottrell Wren was the teacher, and you were his student teacher. That's right. In whatever year that was, 70.
Back in the 1900s.
The mid-1900s, almost.
There you go.
So that's really how I met you. You were the student teacher when I was in the 8th grade. Then we moved to Pineville, and I went to Pineville High. And a couple years later, he shows up at Tioga, and he was my enemy for years.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But tell us a little bit. How did you started playing? Did you start on the tuba, or did you start on another instrument?
I started on the trumpet as well. I was at Brain Junior High School. Lynn Fife was the band director. Miss Fife started us. I was a trumpet player. I went to San Angelo, Texas for the 8th grade year at Edison Junior High. Lived with my grandparents for a year in the 8th grade. Then I moved back to Ash, and Mr. Payne at the time for his doctorate. Mr. Payne listened to me play trumpet. He said, "This big guy can't carry a tune on the trumpet, but he could probably carry a tuba." And so he moved me from trumpet.
Not carry a tune, but he can carry a tuba.
That's right. That's right. So I was a big guy in high school, so I moved to the tuba, and it was a great transition for me at the time. Leslie Duncan, who ran track and joined the Air Force following high school, and then I said Monty LeMays was first chair. And so I sat between the two of them, it's just the three of us, and we had a great time back there in the back. The tuba is a fun instrument. And then I moved on to, play on my own horn, which is, Dad thought it was nuts because I didn't have a car in college.
But you got a tuba.
Right. You can't drive a tuba. I said, I can't play a car. And so I bought the, Miraphone tuba and, been playing it ever since. And of course, I'm going to be honest with you, about 20 years ago, I've laid it down and I just picked it back up, trying to blow cobwebs out of it and see if I can get it to work. You heard me say get it to
Get
work.
it to work, right.
It's the 1 inch behind the mouthpiece. That's where the problem is. So we're trying to work it out so he gets more playing time. But it was great fun. Great fun.
For several years, there was a thing at the mall, if I recall, called a Tuba Christmas. Were you a part of that? You were part
Yes,
of that.
as a matter of fact, I was an Ash graduate. Roger Chilcote was a Pineville graduate. Roger went to Tech and played tuba in the Tech band. I was at Northwestern State. And we combined and started that. And then, of course, Ernie Bott, from years of band directing at, I think he was at Brain Junior High for years. And then Mr. Botts, carried it, picked it up, and it's still going on. It's 40-something years of going on, with Tuba Christmas. We've done concerts in the mall, and, it'll be 25, 30 tuba players gathered together from around the state. And
That's really cool.
Yeah, it is. That's awesome. Well, that started from Harvey Phillips, who was at Indiana University, and Harvey, whose teacher was born on Christmas Day, and he wanted to honor his teacher, and so he had one of his colleagues on the Indiana faculty that wrote all these Christmas carols. Alec Wilder wrote all these Christmas carols and arranged them for 4 tubas, actually 2 euphoniums and 2 tubas, but the baritone and the tuba are similar kinfolk. And so, these Christmas carols are just, they're played all over the country. Started there in Indiana, in Bloomington, then moved up to Chicago and added to Dallas. First time I ever played was in Dallas. And then we started it here in Alexandria. It's just been continuing.
I didn't realize it was still ongoing.
Bring your baritone.
Well, here's the thing. I never had the money to buy a tuba. I bought my mouthpiece.
Right.
And that's all I could afford.
Yeah.
And today, don't tell them what money would cost.
Well, I think that was a great thing. I mean, I got to learn how to play all 3 of those instruments because the school had the instruments, and you said there were French horns sitting up there on the shelf. You said, you know what, I want to try playing that. And the band director helped teach you how to do it. And so we had the opportunity to do that because of that. Yeah, all you needed to worry about was finding your mouthpiece if you wanted to.
And it seems like do the schools still have loaner instruments, or pretty much are they doing their own
Particularly those more expensive instruments. You're talking about French horns, baritones, tubas, the larger saxophones, oboes, bassoons. Some of the schools have those that are still, that we purchase. And the school board, again, does provide us a little bit of money every year to purchase new instruments and to repair and keep those instruments in good shape. Which is another challenge. But going back to Jerry Payne at Ash, whenever he opened, when he was the first band director, and they said, okay, what do you need? He said, I need some of these instruments. And he bought top of the line everything. Con, D, 8D, French horns, they were just amazing. French horns, Selmer saxophones. The tubas that we played on were Zeiss, Carl Zeiss tubas that were German instruments. Of course, the best in euphoniums, all those things that were just like top-of-the-line instruments. And so, we had a great program.
I remember when I was in school, John Clement at Pineville High School was the director, and he convinced them to purchase these convertibles. They were tuba uprights, but then you put them on your shoulder, and it had a conversion tube, and you could play it like a marching tuba.
Right.
That sucker wasn't light, let me tell you.
Yeah, and that's the DCI, the Drum Corps International Marching, it's kind of like the marching sports.
It is.
It's competitive. And so that's a very common, tuba, those convertibles. But like you say, they're not light and they're not cheap, and those convertible tubes, the loops, it breaks so easily.
Yeah. Well, we had a lot of students that ended up going to DCI because of his interest in that, and that's a whole other arena. We're talking with Dr. Carl Carpenter. We're at the bottom of the hour. We're going to take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk some more about the musical side of his career, and maybe even somebody that he had to suspend from school shortly after becoming a principal. And we'll tell you that story when we come back.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics with 27 providers and 3 locations. Someone can see you today. Stick around. More of Talkback is on the way.
This is a Bloomberg Money Minute. Home Depot's latest sales point to a consumer pulling back on spending. The retailer's sales fell short of Wall Street expectations in the latest quarter, slipping 0.3%. A Home Depot executive said customers are saying that interest rates remain a consideration and they're putting off larger projects for now.
Home Depot did strike a more positive tone about navigating the tariffs. Almost two-thirds of U.S. home shoppers are digging in for a recession, but almost a third said a downturn would make them more likely to buy a house. That's what Realtor.com found, saying that just over half said a recession would have no impact on their decision to buy a home. President Donald Trump has signed a bill cracking down on deepfake revenge porn. The new law is aimed at forcing social media companies to remove non-consensual sharing of explicit sexual imagery online. Stock futures point to a lower open after the market edged higher yesterday. Gina Cervetti, Bloomberg Radio.
For over 35 years, Security Metal Roofing has been Sedlon's trusted name for metal buildings and roofing. When it comes to the highest quality materials at rock-bottom prices and top-tier service, nobody does it better. And don't worry, great prices doesn't mean cutting corners. Our school chemistry color sheeting comes with a 40-year warranty, plus the peace of mind that comes with a team that has over 150 years of combined experience. From sheeting and red iron to roll-up doors and installation, you get more for your money at Security Metal Roofing. Whether you need a new roof, carport, or are building your dream shop, we're here to help every step of the way. Apples to apples, we won't be undersold, and that's a guarantee. Call 445-0223 for your quote today, or visit us at Security Metal Roofing on Masonic Drive in Alexandria, or online at securitymetalroofing.com. Security Metal Roofing, your local experts in metal roofing and buildings, where quality, service, and price come together.
Summertime in Sidlaw is just around the corner. Time to explore. Feeling adventurous. Go biking or hiking in the National Forest. Or camping at the many recreation areas that offer canoeing, kayaking, boating, and fishing. Fun for the whole family. Check out the animals at the zoo, on a petting farm, or at a drive-through safari. Love dogs? Then hit the link. And for those with a taste for freshness, don't miss our farmers market. Want more ideas? Go to explorealexandriapineville.com.
Feel like no one really gets you and what you're going through? Louisiana 988 can help. The free confidential helpline has specialists who focus on serving the LGBTQ+ communities, connecting you to local resources, or just offering a listening ear. Share as much or as little as you want. Most people who reach out report feeling better right in the moment. It's free, confidential, and available 24/7. Text or call 988 anytime.
Good morning, a mixture of sunshine and clouds on our Tuesday. We'll see chance of a stray shower or thunderstorm. Only about a 20% chance of that. Coming down on the windy side, two winds out of the south-southwest at 10 to 20. In the afternoon, highs near 90 degrees. Now tonight, we'll again see a shower or thunderstorm up until about midnight. Overnight lows down to 65. And then sunshine on Wednesday with the highs near 90. Tonight's your forecast from the Sedlaw Broadcasting Weather Center. I'm Dick Gratian. Currently 77 degrees in Sedlaw.
To take part of the show, call 442-8255. That's 442-TALK 978. 104.9 FM. KSYO. Now back to Talk Back. We welcome you back to Talk Back on this Tuesday. All of a sudden, am I echoing to you?
You are all of a sudden. What happened to you? Oh, you're good. You're good now, I think. But
well, the gremlin left the building. So, got Dr. Carl Carpenter with us this morning here on KSYO. I'm glad to have you in. I've already mentioned my connection to you as a 8th grade student. You were the student teacher. Let me try something real quick. I'm going to see if that'll make a difference. I don't know if it will or not, but okay. Turning another mic down. I wanted to ask you, as a student teacher, you had Cottrell Wren. Do you have anybody else that you were students on under?
Right, and Northwestern would require you to student teach part of the day or part of the semester at the junior high level. Then I went to Tioga High School with Cecil Trantham as actually the director that my student taught with at the high school level. Cottrell was the junior high school, and then I went to see Mr. Trantham at Tioga High.
Well, I don't know Mr. Trantham, but I know Dr. Wren was colorful as an instructor. And I loved him personally. I thought he was phenomenal. You know, there's something about on our side of it. I mentioned John Clement, who was all 4 years I was at Bible High School, was my band director. I had such tremendous respect for him over the years. Later in life, we met up on Facebook, and we became Facebook friends. And I was calling Mr. Clement. He's like, "No, call me John." I'm like, "I can't." Right? I can't, John. it's ingrained in me that you're Mr. Clement. I mean, there's a persona there. So, over the many years, have you created friendships with former students?
No, absolutely. There's, of course, I tell the folks, I said, Mr. C was the band director at Tioga High. And I say, I can tell the generation, I say, they come up to, hey, Mr. C. And it's like, okay, you're from Tioga, I remember you. Yeah, and Don, is where the other comes from. But, there's a story, too, talking about Facebook. Young man, Billy Williams was a saxophone player in my Winfield band, and we met up on Facebook, and he's now the youth pastor and minister over in Mississippi. And he said, you sent me to your car to pick up something one time, and on your key ring you had the Serenity Prayer. And he said, that meant so much to me. And he said he had a conversion in his life, and later on after high school, and he ministered. And anyway, he sent that to me in a Facebook text. I'm going to start crying right now. But, those are kind of things that you have memories of, and you kind of recognize the fact that your impact is far greater than just the music or whatever. And I had that poster in my office from my Oberlin days that I took down when we left Pineville High School. It says, the chief does not teach trombone, he teaches people. And as long as you live, you recognize the fact that, these are students. They're not data points. They're not test scores. And, unfortunately, we seem to be moving toward everything's going to be data-driven. And then all the testing. And, of course, there's a need for that. And in Louisiana, where, we used to have the Mississippi, we would say, thank God for Mississippi, because, we were not 50th in the world. And so, we've bumped up quite a bit over the years. As Jeff Powell was saying yesterday at the meeting that, we're number 32 now. Kay Brumley was on the following talk show the other day with Moon Griffon talking about the moves that we've done in the state of Louisiana with education, which is powerfully important, it's needed.
Yeah, well, you look at being 32, but also Randy's Parish is leading in the state of Louisiana. Correct. So we're way up that curve. I mean, we're helping bend the curve upwards. And Pineville High School, I know you're very proud of. Of course, every school that you're at, you're going to be leading at. I jokingly said about having to suspend somebody, and because you told me a story yesterday. I don't know, was it meant for public consumption?
Well, Alan was probably not listening, because that's my youngest. And, the crew that he ran around with, I couldn't have been prouder of the bunch that he ran around with, because he was always in the midst of all those good kids, and he is a good kid. And so, the thing is that they decided to go play hide and go seek. And Alan said, I know how to get in the building. At 1:30 in the morning when my wife gets a phone call from the Pineville Police, it's like, that's not a good place to start.
Nope.
Phone call in the middle of the night.
Worst phone call to get.
Absolutely. But anyway, we had to address that situation.
Well, all of a sudden you got known as No Nonsense Carpenter.
Yeah. Well, I said, son, your last name rhymes with mine. There's not a way that you're going to get by with anything without people watching or looking or knowing.
Well, you brought up the students, and I think that's the biggest thing, is you look at the years that you've had here and the number of student lives that you've impacted. So I'd love to hear some of the stories, some of your favorite stories of some of that. I know we've got a phone call hanging on there. I'll let you decide, Nathan. You want to take a break and take a phone call?
Let's take a phone call.
Take a phone call.
We want you to talk to us right now, and so let's go to the phone line. Good morning. You're on the line with Dr. Carpenter.
Oh, yes. I'm not going to identify myself, but I used to work with Dr. Carpenter at the McDonald's. I'll say he probably recognizes who I am, but I just want to say he was a real prankster back then. We had fun working together over there.
Real prankster?
And I never would have thought that he'd become a high school principal. So that's quite an accomplishment.
That's awesome. Yeah. I'm not going to ask you to, identify Dr. Carpenter, but I'm sure you have some memories of working at McDonald's.
Well, flipping burgers at McDonald's, where I think it's Cane's. Where is that? Where it is on corner of Castle? That was the old McDonald's, the original McDonald's that was in Alexandria. $1.60 an hour. I mean, boy, we were big time. And then they bumped it up to like $1.65 an hour, and we thought we were rich.
That's right.
So anyway, that's where the original McDonald's was, and it was the only one. And then they built the Burger King across the street. I think it's not even open anymore. No.
Well, I think that I think the 69, 73 class was the first 4-year class at Ash.
Yeah, 69 was when the school opened. 73 was the first 4-year graduating class.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. We appreciate that call. 442-8255. 318-442-8255. Dr. Carl Carpenter, more with him and his student stories right after this.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics with 27 providers and 3 locations. Someone can see you today. Stick around. More of Talkback is on the way.
You too could have a beautiful smile in as little as 12 weeks. Exclusive to today's Dental in Pineville, Virtual Align Clear Aligners. The fastest, most convenient, affordable way to straighten your teeth for people on the go. Plus, they're invisible. No one will know you're doing it. Experience the Virtual Align difference. Call Today's Dental at 448-4540. It's a general dental facility on Highway 28 East in Pineville, owned by Dr. Jonas Goche. 448-4540.
Success is about momentum. For over 20 years, Kinetics has been moving businesses forward with cutting-edge IT, cybersecurity, and marketing solutions, while keeping them secure, innovative, and competitive. We power progress with next-gen business technology and marketing solutions designed to keep your business ahead of the competition. Need seamless IT, a bold new brand, a strategy built for what's next? Don't get left behind. Move forward with Kinetics. Visit kbisp.com and take the next step today.
A message from Israel Air Conditioning and Heating.
Yeah, my mama, she told me to pick up and call Israel Air. She told me Israel Air. She told me. She said they'll come running with comfort beyond compare.
It's a very fair price.
Because you know we're all about your comfort, no trouble. Call 442-6657. 442-6657. We're all about your comfort,
If you're a woman, talk to your doctor by age 25 about your risk of getting breast cancer. More women under 40 are getting breast cancer, and these cancers are often more deadly. The American College of Radiology recommends you ask your doctor if you should get a mammogram before age 40. Need other tests like an MRI with your yearly mammogram, or if at high risk, should be checked more than once a year. For more information, visit mammographySavesLives.org.
Your local radio company is Sinlaw Broadcasting. We're all about local.
The Alexandria Lions Club is composed of civic-minded men and women that volunteer their time and efforts to various humanitarian causes throughout our community, Lions District and Louisiana. The Lions motto is, "We serve." And if you take a moment to visit the Alexandria Lions Club Facebook page, you'll be surprised at how many good causes this club is involved with. Want to volunteer? Message the Alexandria Lions Club on Facebook.
This has been a public service reminder from Sinlaw Broadcasting.
Do you have a drug problem? Do you want to stop? Well, there are folks who can help. Call Narcotics Anonymous at 1-585-DON'T-USE or visit their website at larna.org for more information.
970 AM, 104.9 FM, KSYO. To take part of the show, call 442-8255. That's 442-TALK-BACK. Terrific Tuesday on Talkback with Trish and Nathan, and we're delighted today to have with us Dr. Carl Carpenter's lovely wife, Terry. Dr. Carpenter just retired after giving out about 4,500 diplomas, more or less, give or take, one or two. And what I'm sure in those 4,500 diplomas, there's a story or two that stands out that's worth sharing. And you're welcome to change the names to protect the not so innocent.
Well, I will say, the graduation ceremonies that we have, at the Coliseum, and I appreciate very much Julie Prevost and all of the folks at the Rapids Coliseum, the Laborde Earls Coliseum now. And the fact that we moved to the Coliseum was because of the bitter weather, the heat, the rain, and battling all the elements at a stadium, and then move it into the auditorium. It's just not enough room for the parents and friends of the graduates. So we've been doing it there at the Coliseum for several years, and it's just been one of those great things for us to do for graduation. But the thing that we talk about with you complete this, but then, like I said, we had 308 on roll, we had 299 that won't. And I've always encouraged those others to come on back, finish this, got to take this test. And several times during the summer, they will come back. And last summer, I put my cap and gown on and gave a cap and gown to one of the kids that came back, and we did 4 single graduations last year. And I would take a picture and let the parents come up and take a picture. We'd go inside the building, get a big, big spectacle. But the fact that if we encourage them to come on back, finish this diploma. The high school diploma is like, as I jokingly refer to it, it's a ticket to the real world. I said, you have to have it before you can do military. You have to have it before you go to so many jobs. You can't go to college without it. So come on back and get this thing finished. And, the 4 that I had last summer, and I certainly hope there's several that come on back this summer and finish. I know our guidance counselors are the best in the business, and they really do an amazing job. And they'll pester them until they'll come back and work. And, Mr. Neal, John Neal, is in the driver's chair now at Pineville High School. He's going to do an amazing job. I'm really proud of Mr. Neal. He was in the English class, and that's one of the tough parts of the principalship is when you have a vacancy in the assistant principal role. You go get the best English teacher out of the classroom, or you go get the best math teacher out of the classroom. Mr. Johnson was assistant band director. Mr. Walker, who followed John Clement, Kenny Weiss, I think, was in between. But, John's going to do a great job. I'm really excited for him. He's got a good staff underneath him that's going to support him, and the school will support him because he's so well-liked and respected by the high school and the community and the faculty.
Well, you certainly followed the mantra of leave things better than you found them. 18 years at one school, at Pineville High School, makes you the longest tenured principal in the history of Pineville High School. There have been a lot of great principals. You mentioned Wayne Lemoyne. Mr. Sanders was principal when I was there. Some of my kids went there when Miss Cisco was there. Just a lot of great names that the people of the community will remember. But Carl Carpenter is going to go down there as a name that will not be forgotten. Well, what does that mean to you?
Well, I'm proud of the work that we did at Pineville. There's a lot of things that we added, programs that we've added, and some of the associate degree program was just an amazing addition to ours. And, that now it's kind of patterned in several schools, and several students are graduating from MASH and from, the other schools that have those 60 college credit hours. Randy Webb, longtime president in Northwestern State, as a matter of fact, the longest serving president in Northwestern's history, he and I had a good relationship, and we started talking about this program, and we got it off the ground. And, I'm blessed, or I should say Pineville High School is blessed with a number of faculty that are college credentialed. You have to have a master's degree in content here. An MED doesn't do you any good as far as Master of Education doesn't do you any good as far as teaching college level courses. You got to have a master's in English or a master's in mathematics or a master's in science. And we're blessed at Pineville High School to have all of those. And so those students that can come on and take those courses with us, they don't have to have adjunct teachers come from the college in order to teach that, that class. And so we added 20 new associate degree students this year with the class of 25 and added them together from 2020, which was our first year. We had the famous first 9 that graduated with associate's degree, and we have a total of 83.
So that means they graduated high school having an associate's degree already?
That's correct.
That is, I mean, the cost savings alone to mom and dad is huge.
Yeah.
But
Well, and I've had a number of students that have come back to me talking about Mr. Neal, John Neal's son Jackson, finished his undergraduate school in 3 years, and then he went on to, finish he started his master's, and he used his 4th year of TOPS to begin grad school. And, a number of them, Brandon Saspiva finished in 2 years at LSUA, and then used the rest of it going to Louisiana Tech to work on his master's degree using the 3rd and 4th year of TOPS. So that's just financially, it's a windfall for parents for their kids to have that associate's degree. And plus, it's the bragging place.
Well, they mentioned yesterday several of the principals brought students to the Nervia meeting, the students of the year, and somebody from Tioga, I thought they said it was the first student that had the associate's degree at Tioga, but is that right?
I'm not sure. I couldn't answer that question.
But you did have an associate's degree.
That's wonderful.
Laudable. All right. We got to our last break of the hour. We come back, we'll wrap things up and talk about what's next for Dr. Carl and Miss Terry. Back with more right after this.
Talkback is sponsored by The Clinics with 27 providers and 3 locations. Someone can see you today. Stick around. More of Talkback is on the way.
So, tell me, when is the worst possible day for your AC system to fail? That's right, and right now, Southern Air is offering a comprehensive AC tune-up for a special price of $59 per system. But you must book your appointment by May 31st to lock in this special offer. Don't wait until your cooling system fails on the hottest day of the year. Act now, let us bear it. Visit SouthernAirNow.com or call 318-777-5555.
When buying a home or property, you have a choice for your real estate closing attorney. Fine Legal Services, LLC is a full-service title company offering residential and commercial real estate closings, title insurance, and more. Call your Alexandria, Louisiana attorneys, George Fine and Jeremy Seegers, at 318-767-2226 to learn more, or visit fine-lawyers.com. Let your realtor and lender know that you choose Fine Legal Services.
The Greenhouse presents Help Save Lives. According to the ASPCA in the United States, millions of healthy dogs and cats are euthanized each year. Unfortunately, that's what happens to pets who are born unwanted. You can stop these deaths by preventing unwanted pregnancy. Have your pets spayed or neutered. And if price is an issue, Magnolia Spay and Neuter on Nelson Street here in Alexandria is Central Louisiana's only low-cost spay-neuter clinic.
Colorectal cancer is the leading cancer killer in men under 50 and the second leading cause of cancer death for women under 50. The American College of Radiology urges you to get screened starting at age 45. Now, Medicare and insurance companies are required to cover not only colonoscopy, but less invasive exams like virtual colonoscopy. Talk to your doctor about your options. For more information on virtual colonoscopy, visit radiologyinfo.org/virtual CT.
We're Sinlaw Broadcasting, local radio doing local public service.
Near the end of the Civil War, 2 forts were built in Pineville to guard the Red River. Today, the Forts Randolph and Bulow State Historic Sites offers visitors an amazing glimpse back to that time. The site contains the remains of 2 old forts, a beautiful visitor center, a scenic overlook on the Red River, and a series of impressive elevated boardwalks. Learn more at Forts Randolph and Bulow State Historic Site on Facebook.
This has been a public service reminder from Sinlaw Broadcasting.
There's no better description than to say St. Jude is a place of hope. My name is Lindsay. I'm alive today because of this incredible hospital and the generosity of so many who wanted to support it.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
To take part in the show, call 442-2255. That's 442-TALK.
Welcome back to our final segment with Dr. Carl Carpenter, who said we don't have to call him Doc after today. Let's go back to the phone line. Good morning. You're on the line with Carl Carpenter.
Yes, I always had a question for him. Back in the Stone Ages in the late 70s when I was in the 9th grade, we had a course, it was a split semester. It was private enterprise and civics. where we had a very in-depth civics course. Judging from what, and I don't know this for a fact, are we still teaching that in high school? Because judging from some of the graduates, a lot of the graduates I've talked to, when a high school graduate can't tell me what the three branches of government are and, what's consists of the legislative branch, that concerns me.
Well, there still is
class, and I'll hang up and listen.
Thank you very much for your call. Appreciate that.
Yeah, there's a civics class that is still taught as a required course, and so that's unfortunate that if you've talked to some folks that certainly, hopefully, not word from Pine Bluff that didn't know the three branches of government, but unfortunately, there are some that do just the bare minimum to get through and get past to graduate.
Is civics now a full year, or is it, okay, because I'm like him, for me it was half a year civics and half a year free enterprise.
Right.
And so they kind of incorporate that into one class.
It's all in one class.
Very good. Well, you said we could drop the Doc, and because Doc retired last week. But a lot of people may not know that your full name is David Carl Carpenter, right?
Right.
How did you end up just being called Carl? Was your dad David Carl, or?
No. And I can't really answer that question. I mean, it's just my mother called me Carl, and I just grew up Carl.
If my mother called my middle name, I was in trouble.
Well, and if I heard David Carl, I was in trouble.
Right. I said I was going to ask you what's in the future, and I do know we were talking during the commercial break. You have been the music leader at your home church for 39 years, Pinehurst Baptist Church up in Ball, and you're going to continue that.
That's correct. I started, I said I moved to Overland on a Saturday. I went to church on Sunday. The next Sunday, I was a music director at Overland Baptist Church. And so I led the music, led the singing, if you will, the hymn books, the old days of the music program. And then I did that in Overland. And then when I got to Tioga High School, I was doing the same thing. And then Brother Dub Carson, long-time pastor at Pinehurst Baptist Church, invited us up there. We've raised our family from Pinehurst. 3 kids who were baptized at Pinehurst, and 3 kids that are still continue their, spiritual life. And so been music director at Pinehurst. We're going on 40+ years in music ministry, and I'm going to go to church, and I'm going to be involved.
Yeah.
So it's a gift that God gave me, and so it's a gift that I'm going to use.
That was a smart pastor that saw the talent sit there and said, right. I do have one question, though. Since you still sing from the hymn book, do y'all sing the third verse?
I sing all 4 verses. I figure the hymn writers wrote them right on purpose.
Years ago, a young man was giving his testimony. He had been a single man much of his life, and he didn't get married until he was in his 30s. And his testimony was, when he turned 30 years old, he was as lonely as the third verse in the Baptist hymnal. Oh my goodness,
that's a good story.
Yeah. So, Miss Terry tells me you guys have a little acreage you got to keep up with, and maybe haven't gotten all the TLC is going to be getting.
That's a fact. And of course, I left the North Rapids Business Luncheon yesterday and jumped on my bush hog, and I spent about 4 hours just riding around in the backyard. We have 11.7 acres, and so, the back part of it has been neglected. I need to do a lot back there.
And I'm sure there's some travel in your future.
Absolutely. Our youngest son lives in Denver. Our oldest son is the director of the band, Marine band, that came to us from New Orleans, but is going to Hawaii. So, yep, there's some travel.
Oh, my goodness. Well, let me just say, as a parent of Bible High School kids, I've had 5 of my kids under your leadership. Thank you. I always knew you believed in the school and you believed in the kids. You believed in your staff. And I just personally thank you so much for investing in those thousands of lives.
Thank you for those kind words, and you're welcome.
All right. That wraps up today's show. Tomorrow it'll be Al and Trish.
I'll be right back here again tomorrow.
As you guys can have it, I'll be listening in tomorrow. Thank you guys.
Listening to Talk Back. The opinions expressed were those of the hosts and callers, and not necessarily those of Zenlaw Broadcasting. FM 104.9, AM 970, KSYM, and KR.